I'm going to start off by reminding everybody the theme of the conference. So the theme of the conference is challenge, change, and opportunity. So I'd like you to just take a minute and think about, what do those words mean to you? Challenge, change, and opportunity. What does it mean to you in your personal life as an individual? When you think about coming up in life, having children, having responsibilities, think about the challenges that you faced, the changes that you had to make, and the opportunities that came out of that. And as we go through the day, I'd like you to think in another sense about those words. I'd like you to think about those words and how they apply to the students and the families that we serve. Think about how the opportunities that you've had and the challenges that you've faced and the change that you've been able to make, how that might be different from the students and families that we serve. Maybe it's very different, or maybe not so much, depending on who you are. So I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of an introduction to me. And I've had the opportunity to meet some of you, but not all of you. So this is amazing to see the group this morning, to welcome you, to learn a little bit about who you are and what you do. So let me tell you, without getting into too much detail, about who your new superintendent is. Because as soon as I got here, I felt this nervousness, this tension. Who is she? What is she going to do? Is she going to come and change everything? What is she going to be like? It's that unknown, right? The fear of the unknown. Who is this woman coming from LAUSD? This outsider from the monster school district. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, the daughter to Mexican immigrants. My parents came to this country because they wanted a better opportunity for their children and for themselves. And they came here and they got going and they had 5 children. So I'm one of 5 siblings or children. And we all, we didn't have a lot. We grew up in the Pico Union area of LA and then moved to Hollywood. And we didn't have that much, but we had a lot of love. And we had a lot of support in our family. The one thing that we didn't have was something our parents could not give us. And that was a lot of guidance in terms of education. See, my parents didn't go to college. My parents didn't finish high school. My parents only went to about 3rd and 6th grade level of education. They were very smart people. They just didn't have the opportunity. They came here, they had 5 children, they taught us to be good kids, they gave us love, they didn't understand the educational system, and they worked very hard. My father was a dishwasher, my mother was a waitress for many, many years, and they worked hard. But we got through it, we did well, until, I'd say, high school, like many of our students. So in junior high, I was a cheerleader, I was in gymnastics, I was student government, everything. And then I went to high school and it all fell apart. I was like, what is this? What is this high school thing about? My friends aren't here, I don't like it. But I also realized that I didn't want to be there because I didn't understand the relevancy in it. Why do we go to school? Why do we need an education? My parents didn't have an education. Nobody in my family had an education. So I didn't care. Started working, Kentucky Fried Chicken. They offered me a full-time job. Week after high school, I said, goodbye, I've had enough. I'm done. I dropped out. It was great. I went home, I told my family, I am now working full-time. What do you think my family said? They were like, okay, you're a good girl. You're not promiscuous. You're not hanging out with gangs. You're a good girl. You're working hard. Great. Probably going to marry someone who's going to take care of you. You'll have children. You'll have a good life. And that's how I started off, or ended my career, I should say, in LAUSD. But one thing that you realize is how important it is to have an education when you don't have one. When you're living in poverty, when you don't have enough money to do the things that you need to do, it's tough. And I'm sure some of you have experienced that. So I dropped out of high school. I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I ended up getting married at 15. Long story. You don't want to know why. But got married at 15 and had my first child when I was 16. So I had no education. I was 16 years old. I became a mother. And to complicate things even more, my son, Bruce, was born with spina bifida. Anybody know what spina bifida is? Yeah. So it's basically a neural tube defect that impacts that damages your nerves. It's almost like having a spinal cord injury. And his level of the opening in the spine was very high, so he was very severely disabled. When I had this child, all of these people started coming to me. Doctors, different types of doctors, neurologists, urologists, specialists. I was like, I don't even know the difference between all of these doctors. Social workers, physical therapists, you name it. People from the system coming to me to offer their support, and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know who these people are. And so that's what inspired me to go back to school. I went back to school because I knew if I was going to be a good parent, a good mother to this child that was going to have a tough time in life, I had better get an education. And that's what I did. I went to a community college. It took me 10 years because I was working and I had more children. I have 7 children now. Don't ask why. But I did. And 7 children and working, and so it took a while. And so my message oftentimes is, it doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is that you do it, that you get it done. Went to community college, ended up transferring to UCLA, where I got a bachelor's in Chicana Studies and Women's Studies. And then I started working at this organization, the LA Commission on Assault Against Women. And I started getting exposed to these really strong women, feminists, that were talking about domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and really got interested in working to make the world a better place, in working to correct things. And I think that's part of who I am. If I see there's a problem with something, I can't sit still and not do something about it. Because I honestly feel that if you're not a part of the solution, that you're part of the problem, and that we all have a role and responsibility in making things better. So that experience led me to become a social worker. I went back to UCLA. I got a degree in a master's in social welfare, where I learned more about the injustices. I knew some of the injustices that we've all faced, that you faced as a woman, as a Latina, as someone growing up in poverty. We've all had our challenges, but I learned more about it. And so I went back to school, and that led me to education, because I was placed at a school for my internship, and I started working with all these children and families and realizing the tremendous barriers that our students and families face every single day. You hear people saying, these poor kids, these Latino kids, these African American kids, their parents, they don't care about education. It's not true. What happened is that not everybody has had the opportunity. Not everyone has had the opportunity or the privilege to have been exposed to all of the things that we need in order to live a better life. And so that's why I do what I do. I will tell you, I ended up going back to UCLA for a third degree where I got a doctorate in educational leadership, because I realized that the real pathway to lifting people out of poverty and to improving the lives of our children and families is to make sure that everybody has a quality education, that we give them the support that they need so that they can be educated, because our children face extreme barriers. So everybody has challenges, right? I went to the LACOE opening day with the teachers, and Principal Lizarga did a great job. I don't know if she's here today, but she didn't. There she is in the back. She did a great job. And one of the things that she did was she showed this video to really build, I think, compassion and empathy and understanding. And what that video showed was, it was in a hospital setting, but it really showed you what people were thinking. And what it made me realize, something that I think about a lot, is you never know what people are experiencing. You're sitting here in this large room of 500 people. Looks like that to me. And you don't know what the person sitting next to you is going through. You don't have no idea. My father always used to say, cada cabeza es un mundo. Every head, every person, it's this whole world of things that we're experiencing, that we're facing, that we have to get through in life. But I think the important thing to remember is that whatever we do, and this is the message that we need to get out to our staffs, to our children that we're working with, whoever we're interacting with to make this system better, is that you can't get stuck in the challenge. It's real easy to say, oh, well, poor me. I was a teen mom. I had a disabled kid. I have 7 children. My parents, didn't know the system, and give up. But we can't do that. We can't do that if we want to be happy in life. We want to be successful in life. So that's what I'm about. That's why I came to education, because I really believe that our challenge here at LACOE is looking at how do we change this system, this great big system, to make sure that we're doing the absolute best job that we can to support children so that they can get an education. And for some of you, that might feel pretty far removed. You might not ever touch children in your day-to-day work. You might be doing business services and important work, but you're not directly touching children. And I think what I want everybody to remember as we think about our work here in this organization is that everything we do somehow relates back to children and families. Whether you're in business services, whether you're in HR, whether you're doing facilities work, whatever you're doing, somehow think about how that work connects back to the students and the families that we serve. So my experience and my background shaped who I am. And I'm a strong believer that hardship can make you a stronger person. And it can also give you a unique perspective. It certainly did for me. It's taught me to really prioritize things. I've learned that I don't take things for granted. When I see a 1-year-old starting to learn to walk, that's a miracle to me every time I see that. Because I have a son who's a quadriplegic who never took a step in his life. So to me, I see that, and I get excited. I don't take health for granted. I see people, I see myself when I'm healthy and I don't have any major medical problems. I'm able to stand and move and exercise. I don't take it for granted because I realize that not everybody has that. My experience also taught me the importance of a good education. As I said, that was the pathway for me. That's what got me out of poverty and gave me the opportunity to do work that I really wanted to do. And so for me, what my passion is making sure that the children in this county have that opportunity. They have the opportunity to get an education and to do well. And that it doesn't matter where you start off in life. It doesn't matter what zip code you're born into. It Doesn't matter who your parents are, or even if you don't have parents and you're part of the foster care system, that there are supports, that there are opportunities, that you can change your life. And when I go out and I talk to students, I tell them that, and I share my story with them. Because one, I'm a believer in storytelling, and I also believe that it gives them hope. People need hope. And I think for a lot of people, they say, wow, if you could do it with 7 kids and one that's severely disabled, then I can do it too. And that's what we want to do. We want to build hope. I also want you to understand the urgency of the work that we're doing here. So you're working for an organization that's not putting out a product like lipstick, not putting out a product like computers. Our product is children and families. Think about that. What is more important than making sure our product gets an education? I tell people, even if you don't care about kids, or you don't care about the population of kids, the achievement gap, and those that aren't getting an education, think about how it's going to impact you personally. Our children are the ones that are going to take care of us when we're old, right? Who is going to run this country if we have a bunch of uneducated, unprepared young adults? So it's something that we all have to think about. We have a problem here in Los Angeles. We have a problem with 25%, a quarter of our children live in poverty. Poverty. Think about that. Lots and lots of children, more here in Los Angeles than in California, even in the United States. In LA, we have a big problem. So much so that we have a state of emergency with our homeless population. And I know when I was in LAUSD, because I was the person that oversaw homeless education, we had over 13,000 homeless children, just in LA Unified. And those are the families that came forward and actually identified themselves, because most people don't want to be attached to that stigma. We have many children that don't speak the language. They come here. My daughter just got married a couple of weeks ago. Well, it seems like a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was a month ago now. Time's flying here. And I went to Israel. She had her wedding in Israel. Another long story that I won't get into. So there I was in Israel. I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't read the signs. I felt so confused about everything. I mean, even trying to get to the wedding, I was trying to use an app on my phone to get there, and I was lost. So for the people who can't speak the language, who don't understand the system, I had another experience of that myself. I had experienced it with my parents, but this time, being totally in a different place was another eye-opener. We have a lot of single-parent households, a lot of women raising children alone. Many people who have no one in their family that has ever gone to college. Dangerous neighborhoods, substance abuse, domestic violence, gangs. These are the challenges that many of our children and our families face. And many, as I said, end up in the foster care system because they're victims of abuse, of trauma, neglect. It's very, very sad. So when I talk to you and I think about my work here, that's what my focus is always going to be. My focus is going to be, how do we support children to access a quality education? And how do we help their parents? How do we guide them and give them the support? So here at LACOE, we do that in many ways. Indirectly, we're providing a lot of great services to school districts, running our own programs, doing the critical work that needs to be done so that our children, every time I turn and see my picture, it freaks me out. I just have to say that. It's like I'm all over the wall here. Can we put up a different slide? It's throwing me off. Again, I want to remind you that our work is about the kids. Our work is about the families. So when I got here to LACOE, I did what, we all do as leaders. You get out your old leadership books, and you get out your, entry plan, and you write up that 90-day plan, and you think about everything that you're going to do, and you put a lot of thought into that. And so that's what I did. I did the typical things that we all do. And the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to meet with a lot of the stakeholders. So I've met with the cabinet, great cabinet team. They're all right here. Cabinet, stand up and get acknowledged. And I have to say, it's been a pleasure working with this team. They're amazing, and they really are a team, which doesn't always happen when you have a lot of very high-level. And I see Scott over there. Why aren't you here with the rest of the cabinet? We're missing one. Oh, and you're not? Oh, okay, he didn't get the memo. All right. Anyhow, they are a team, and I started with them, and then I moved on to directors, and I'm moving on to different people, and I'm talking to people. And I'm talking to board members, and I'm talking to the board of supervisors, and I'm talking to some of our community partners. I'm going to our schools. I'm visiting sites. I'll be visiting some of you. I went out recently to visit the GAIN program in Glendale. Wonderful program. To all of you doing GAIN, great work. So the idea here is to understand what this organization is about, what we do. What are the challenges of the organization, and what are some of the things that we can do better? And so in my conversations with folks, I'll start with the challenges. No, you know what? I'm going to start with the good stuff. Why start with the challenges? So you have great things happening here. Great things happening. I have to say, from someone who was not that familiar with the types of services that LACOE provided, I've really been learning a lot every single day. One thing I have to say is you have a tremendous employees, people who come here that are working hard, that are committed, that are dedicated, put in way beyond the amount of time that they are required to do. And I want to start by thanking all of you who do that, because I know that the work can be daunting. The work supporting the 80 school districts. We have experts, the best probably in the country in terms of specialized programs. I've been talking to superintendents as well, and they've told me they appreciate the support that they're getting regarding LCAP, which is still relatively new to them. They've talked about the professional developments that are offered in technology, in curriculum instruction, our support services, the work that we're doing to help homeless families and students, the pupil services, the permit work that's being done, and the great work around foster youth and data sharing that this county is really pushing out so that we're helping all school districts to be able to identify who their foster youth are so that we can provide them with services. We have an outstanding Head Start program. Keisha, where is she? Great work. Let's give her a hand. I told myself I'm not going to say names because there's so many people to acknowledge, but sometimes you just have to. Coming in here today, you saw the construction taking place. That's because we're expanding the number of students that we're going to be able to support through our Head Start program. And it's been wonderful to see that we're really making sure that our youngest children have access to an education. Because we all know that the earlier we start, the better off we're going to be. And it's a lot easier to educate young people than to fix broken adults, right? So if we start really early, we'll do a much better job. RTSA. Come on. Awesome work that's happening with the Roads to Success Academy. And I want to encourage, and we're going to have to figure out how to do this, but for those of you who haven't been out to sites, because as I said, some of your work doesn't touch children, to really figure out how you can have an opportunity to go out, to visit, to understand how your work is connected, to see how you're supporting so many schools and districts, and really how that work makes a difference to so many. You know, when I first came on board, I had the opportunity to go to the graduation for the High School of the Arts and iPoly. Amazing high schools, great things happening. Children being very successful. Yeah, give yourself a hand. I also got to see something that really touched me, and that was the Academic Bowl. And that was the opportunity to see our children who have faced lots of challenges and who have made some poor decisions, excelling academically, in debates, and really showing that they are just as capable as any of our children if they're given the opportunity. Technology, as I said, we've got wonderful things happening. I mean, look around the room. Look at our technology support in the back. We have apps for today's program. We have people that are supporting our schools to learn how to apply technology in their instruction to make it more relevant. And we have our BEST project. Can somebody tell me what the BEST stands for? All right. Did you hear that, Greg?
Business Enhancement System Transformation.
All right. So that's excellent, the work that's being done there. Also, I had the opportunity, and any of you who saw the board meeting saw Jim Anderson present on our SPED 4 and the system that we're using to really make sure we are on track and monitoring and doing everything in a timely manner for our students with disabilities and with special needs. We have HR that are hiring a lot of people, a lot of change. There were rifts, there were challenges, making sure that we're bringing the right people on board and that we're supporting people and providing guidance and support. Union negotiations, another challenge that Dr. McDuffie is doing an excellent job in trying to make sure that we're partnering with our unions and making people realize that we are partners, that we want to work together. We have a great legal counsel, small team, but doing great work to make sure that we are staying out of legal trouble, but also advising us on really critical things and making sure that we are following the law and we are doing things in order. So I can go on because there are many, many great things happening here at LACOE. So let me tell you some of the challenges that I'm sure that you're already aware of, but these are some of the things that I'm thinking about, and I'm going to ask your help to improve. So one is there's this perception out there. In different people that I talk to, there's kind of this perception of, well, LACOE is this big bureaucracy, and things don't happen very quickly over there. And it's hard to get things that you need in a timely manner. And again, these are pockets, and I want to say that in any organization, you're going to find these kinds of challenges because it just comes with being a large institution serving large groups. The other thing that I found as a challenge was this whole Croft and Justice report. So you're all probably heard about that. If you haven't, it's basically a report that came out identifying problems that we have in our services to students with disabilities. And so the great thing is that although we've found these challenges, and some of those challenges being that in classrooms there was lack of rigor, there was some distrust in the billing practices in terms of how we bill districts for the services that we provide, something really positive came out of that report. And I think it was a really good thing because it brought an issue to the attention of people and it got people working on solutions. And from what I've learned in just being here a short time is that of all of the recommendations that came out of that report, 87% of them have been implemented. So the team's doing a really good job of identifying that we had some challenges and fixing the problem. Another thing that I've noticed is across the board, we can improve upon our communication. Communication isn't always forthcoming. It's not always timely. We need to do a better job making sure that everybody is communicating with one another and that we're integrating and coordinating our work. Because what I've also found is that The challenge, as I said, like anywhere else, is people tend to work in silos. You work with your group, with what you're comfortable with, and it's not as natural to expand out and think about who else is this going to impact, who else can I involve. So we're going to be looking at improving communication and improving that collaboration and getting people working together more. And then the last thing that I'm going to say in terms of a challenge that we face is really structural deficit spending. Looking at the budget, if you've heard again from our board, we're spending more than we're bringing in. And we need to start thinking about reducing how much we spend. And we need to start thinking about every penny we spend needs to be aligned to our plans and our initiatives and where we want to go from here. So I'm a very strong believer in strategic planning. I do that everywhere I go. One of the things I learned as a social worker is working with systems and integrating systems. And one thing I learned very early on is you have to have a plan. Call it what you want, strategic planning, performance management, whatever you want to call it, you have to have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, everybody comes up with their own plan. And then we're all working very, very hard, but we're not efficient because we're going in different directions. And so what I hope to do is to work on this strategic plan and get everybody moving in the right direction together. So in starting that strategic plan, I brought the cabinet together. We went away for 2 days, all day. It was a lot of work. And we really had some long, deep conversations about LACOE as an organization. And we started with, what is our purpose? Why are we here? Because we do a lot of things here. We do things that we're not even necessarily required to do. We do them because they're good things to do. So we had to really look at what's our fundamental purpose and what are our values? What do we value? What should this organization be known as something that we value? And we came up with some things that I think are very powerful. What the group said is we value integrity, collaboration, open communication, respect, and equity. Those are things that we value. And I think that's something that everybody values. And if you're sitting here in the room and this is not something that you value, you're probably in the wrong room. Because you have to value these things to do the work that you need to do. So we started with that, and then we drafted a vision and a mission statement. And it took a lot of work, but what we did is we came up with a culture of excellence in all we do. You think of one vision. Where do we want to go as an organization? We want to be known as an organization of excellence. And so then, because I believe that you can't take your top-level management and go away and come up with a strategic plan. In order for a strategic plan to work and to be effective, you need to vet it out. Every single one of you is going to have a responsibility in that strategic plan, and you have to give your input. You have to believe in it. You have to buy into it in order for us to move forward and to make progress. And you will have that opportunity. We also came up with a mission, and it is improving the lives of students and our educational community through service, leadership, and advocacy. I'll read it again. Improving the lives of students and our educational community through service, leadership, and advocacy. So the next thing we did is we took it to the director level, we introduced it to them, we got their ideas, their core values, their thoughts about the organization, and we tweaked it a little bit. And it's still going to be tweaked a little bit more. The next step to that strategic plan is really getting out there to all of you and all the people out there, all of our line workers that are going to make this possible, and to be very specific about what we need to do to move in the direction that we want to move. So we've identified some core areas, some initiatives that I talked about, areas that we need to improve upon. The next step is creating those goals and objectives with timelines, with who's responsible for what. And then we need to get to work, and we need to implement. One of the things that you find in strategic planning that oftentimes stops the process or stops improvement from coming out of it is the implementation phase. Because we can all get together and write up a plan. That's easy. You know, we got a lot of smart people in the room. We could write something up. We can put it on a shelf. But that's not what this is going to be. This is going to be a strategic plan that is very, it's going to be something that we're going to use every day to guide our work. And with that strategic planning, we're going to set up an accountability piece and a performance management piece. And you're going to help us develop that. You're going to help us create the expectations of what needs to be done under each of those tasks to get to the improvements that we want to make. And we're going to use it and collect data and monitor and track to see if we're getting to where we want to go, right? Because as I said, with strategic planning, you have to have a roadmap. You have to have a final destination. And if we're all going on a trip together, but everybody thinks we're going to stop in different places and you know, we're not going to land in the same direction. So we all need to be on the same page, and we're going to do that work together. And we're really going to make some key strategic shifts. The other thing that I want to say is part of strategic planning is not only creating the plan and helping people to implement the plan and monitoring and tracking to make sure that we're going in the right direction, but it's also providing resources and support. So it's making sure that if we're going to go in a certain direction, that we align the budget to the direction that we're going into so that people feel that they can do the work that they're being asked to do. So that's a key part of it as well. I'm excited about the plan. I'm excited about you taking a look at it. I'm excited about where we can go together as an organization. But I have to say, it's only going to work if everybody joins together and feels a sense of urgency and a sense of pride of who you are and where you work and the product that we're developing and the service that we're trying to offer. Not trying, but doing every single day. I also want to say in closing that my leadership style, as you probably noticed, is a little bit different. I come to the table as a social worker, as an advocate of someone who is going to focus on social justice and equity issues and systems approach. I believe in distributive leadership. I believe everybody has the ability to lead given the opportunity. And I'm going to be looking to you to help as we move forward, to help lead us and take us in the direction that we're wanting to go to. I also want to say that how many of you have ever read The Four Agreements? Has anybody read that book? So it's one of my favorite little books that I really believe in. And if you want to know a little bit about how I try to live my life, check it out. But this Four Agreements is basically a philosophy that I try to abide by, and it's not easy. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word, to speak with integrity, to not gossip, because people love that chisme. It's just like hard to do sometimes not to get there, but to be impeccable with your word and to be aware of how you use your word. Because once you put something out there, once you say something, you can apologize all you want later. But once it's out there, it's been done, and it's had an impact. So think about being impeccable with your word. The other thing that's really hard is don't take things personally. It's part of the challenge with a lot of people. You're in a meeting, you're in a group, oh, that person said that, they offended me, oh, they're talking about me, I'm so angry, I'm not going to work with that person. Don't take things personally. As I said earlier, cada cabeza es un mundo. Every single person that you're interacting with has a whole bunch of other things going on. You know, it could be that their father just had a stroke. Their child's in the hospital. They're going through a divorce. They just lost their home. They just had a baby. Who knows? Lots of really positive and challenges that people face every day. So don't take things personally and realize it's not about you, that people come to the table with their own baggage, with their own issues, and with their own experiences and see things through different lenses. The other thing is don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Ask for clarification. You know, sometimes you just assume something, and that's a dangerous thing to do. You could just do that. Get clarification. Somebody did something, walk over to them. Ask them. Make sure you understand. And then the last thing, and I'm going to close with this, and I really believe in this, and I tell myself this all the time, is always do your best. Always do your best. And your best is going to be different at different times of your life. Your best is going to be different when you're feeling healthy, when you've had a good night's rest, when things are going well in your life, you feel prepared, you feel energized. Your best is going to be the very, very best. There are going to be times in your life. These are times that we all face where you're going to have challenges. You're going to lose someone in your family. You're going to have someone in your family experiencing a chronic illness, terminal illness. You're going to have times when you just had a baby and you're not getting enough sleep. You're going to have times where things just aren't going right and you're not feeling that well. And what I've always told my staff, and I tell myself, is just do your best. And if you do the best that you can, then that's going to be good enough for those times when you're going through difficult periods in life. And that's why we need a team. Because the hope is that when one member of your team is going through a challenging time, that your colleagues, that your team members, I look to my team members to support me, to see, I understand right now you're going through some hard times, so I'm going to support you. We're going to pick up some of the slack. And that's what teams do. That's how we support each other. And finally, practice some self-care. Take care of yourselves so that you can do the work that you need to do. And with that, I'm going to end and say thank you once again for everything that you're doing to make this organization function.